The emergency klaxon screamed through the bridge of the Valorous Ascent, a Cretal diplomatic vessel that had seen better centuries. Commander Zyx'ara's 3 optical sensors flickered in panic as she watched the tactical display dissolve into chaos. 17 pirate ships, Vraxian marauders, the worst kind, had dropped out of quantum slip and were closing fast. "How did they find us?" her tactical officer hissed, his crystalline form vibrating with fear. "We're in neutral space." "The treaty." "The Vraxians don't honor treaties." Zyx'ara cut him off. Her mandibles clicked nervously. In her 200 years of service, she'd heard the stories. Vraxian pirates didn't take prisoners. They took trophies. Sent a distress signal on all frequencies. "Someone has to be out here." "Commander, we have one response." The communications officer's voice cracked. It's a human ship." The bridge fell silent except for the wailing alarms. Everyone knew about humans. Everyone had heard the rumors. They came from a death world, a planet so hostile that merely surviving to adulthood was considered a military achievement by most civilized species. Earth, they called it. A nightmare of crushing gravity, violent weather, predatory fauna, and diseases that evolved specifically to kill its dominant species. The humans had clawed their way to sentience despite their world's best efforts to exterminate them. "Do we have a choice?" Zyx'ara asked quietly. "Negative, Commander. Shields at 40% and dropping. Weapons offline. If those Vraxians board us, hail the humans. Accept their assistance." The view screen flickered, and a face appeared that made half the bridge crew recoil. It was a human male, young by their standards, maybe 30 solar cycles. His features were asymmetrical in that disturbing way humans had, with 2 forward-facing predator eyes that seemed to look directly into your soul. His skin was dark, his hair close-cropped, and when he smiled, he showed teeth. Flat teeth for grinding and sharp ones for tearing. An omnivore's nightmare mouth. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the UES Ranger. Looks like you folks could use a hand." His voice was smooth, almost amused, like he encountered pirate ambushes before breakfast every day. "We're 2 minutes out. Sit tight." "Captain Webb." Zyx'ara forced herself to maintain eye contact with those predator eyes. "There are 17 hostile vessels. I appreciate your willingness to assist, but surely you should call for reinforcements." "Ma'am, with all due respect, by the time reinforcements arrive, you'll be spare parts." That smile widened. "Besides, 17 isn't that many. We've handled worse." The channel closed before Zyx'ara could respond. She looked at her tactical officer. "How many ships does he have?" The officer's sensors swept the area. "Commander, just one. A light frigate by our classification. Maybe 1/3 our mass." "One ship." Zyx'ara felt her heart sink. One human ship against 17 Vraxian raiders. Should I prepare the crew for boarding?" the tactical officer asked quietly. Before Zyx'ara could answer, something impossible happened on the tactical display. The human ship, that small frigate, accelerated directly toward the Vraxian formation at a velocity that should have liquefied its crew. No inertial dampeners were that good. Nothing biological could survive those G-forces. "They're going to ram," someone whispered. But the Ranger didn't ram. At the last possible second, it twisted through a maneuver that violated every principle of momentum Zyx'ara understood, and opened fire. The lead Vraxian raider simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons that burned white-hot on the sensors. Then the Ranger was through the formation, spinning, firing, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something made of metal and circuitry. "How are they doing that?" the tactical officer breathed. "Those maneuvers, the crew should be paced." "Deathworlders," Zyx'ara whispered. "Their bodies can handle it." The Vraxians, to their credit, tried to adapt. They scattered, attempting to surround the smaller human ship, to overwhelm it with mass fire. But the Ranger fought like nothing Zyx'ara had ever seen. It didn't fight like a ship. It fought like a predator, aggressive, unpredictable, ruthless. Every movement was either an attack or a setup for an attack. There was no defense, only varying degrees of offense. 2 more raiders exploded. A fourth lost its engines and began tumbling into the black. The Vraxians opened fire with everything they had, and that's when Zyx'ara saw something that would haunt her dreams. The human ship dove straight into the weapon's fire. "They're insane," someone gasped. But insanity had a method. The Ranger used the weapon's fire itself as cover, the energy blooms masking its movements, making targeting impossible. It emerged from the firestorm already firing, and 3 more raiders died in the span of heartbeats. The remaining Vraxians broke. They simply turned and ran, abandoning the ambush, abandoning their wounded, fleeing in a quantum slip with the kind of panic that only prey animals know. In 4 minutes, the human ship had shattered a force that should have overwhelmed them both. The view screen activated again. Captain Webb was still smiling, but now Zyx'ara had noticed the slight sheen of sweat on his dark skin, the way his chest rose and fell rapidly. He'd felt the G-forces. He'd felt them and fought through them. "Threat neutralized," he said casually. "You folks okay over there? Need an escort to wherever you're heading?" "Aye." Zyx'ara realized her voice modulator was shaking. Yes, thank you, Captain. We're bound for the Kretal homeworld. If you could accompany us to the border, we would be deeply grateful." "No problem. We'll form up on your port side. Take your time getting your systems back online." He paused, and something shifted in those predator eyes. "And Commander? It's going to be okay. You're safe now." The channel closed. Zyx'ara looked around her bridge at the stunned faces of her crew and realized they were all thinking the same thing. Humans weren't just dangerous because they came from a death world. They were dangerous because somewhere in their evolution, being afraid had stopped being an option. The next 3 days passed in relative quiet. The Ranger maintained formation with a valorous ascent, and despite her initial trepidation, Zyx'ara found herself accepting Captain Webb's invitation to dinner aboard the human vessel. Cultural exchange, he called it, a chance to build bridges between their species. Walking through the corridors of the Ranger was a study in controlled chaos. Everything was slightly too small for Zyx'ara's frame, built for creatures that evolved in heavy gravity. The walls were decorated with images of Earth, and each picture was more horrifying than the last. Massive predators with teeth the length of her manipulator appendages. Storms that could level cities. Oceans that could swallow continents. And humans, always humans, standing in front of these nightmares with expressions of joy. "They climb mountains for fun," she muttered to herself. "They throw themselves out of aircraft. They swim with creatures that can bite them in half. What kind of species does this?" The door to the captain's mess opened automatically, and Zyx'ara found herself in a surprisingly intimate space. The table was set for 2, human style, with the strange metal implements they used to eat. Captain Webb stood as she entered, wearing what she'd learned was called a dress uniform. Dark blue with silver accents, crisp and formal. "Commander Zyx'ara, welcome aboard. Please sit." He gestured to a chair that had been modified for her physiology. "You didn't have to go to such trouble, Captain." "Marcus," he corrected gently. "And it's no trouble. After 3 days of travel, I figured we should get to know each other better. Besides, my crew was getting curious about our Kretal passengers." The meal was surprisingly pleasant. Marcus had done his research. The food was carefully prepared to be compatible with her biology, nothing toxic, nothing offensive. As they ate, they talked. Not about the battle, not about politics, but about simpler things. Life aboard ship. The challenges of long-distance travel. The small moments that made service worthwhile. "So what made you join your fleet?" Marcus asked, pouring what he called wine into both their glasses. "Family tradition," Zyx'ara answered. 7 generations of military service. My hatch mother was an admiral. My clutch sibling commands a battle carrier. It's what we do." She paused. "And you? Why did a Deathworlder choose the stars?" Marcus laughed, and the sound was warm, genuine. Deathworlder. You know, on Earth, we just call it home. But to answer your question, I wanted to see what was out here. Wanted to know if we were alone. Turns out we're not. And that's pretty damn amazing. Even after you see species like mine, crystalline beings, silicon-based life, creatures that communicate through bioluminescence. Especially after seeing species like yours. Commander, Zyx'ara, Earth taught us that life adapts, life survives, life finds a way. Seeing that principle play out across the galaxy, that's worth every risk. There was something in his eyes when he said it, something that made Zyx'ara's translation matrix struggle. Passion, wonder, hope, maybe all three. She'd expected a human to be brutal, efficient, cold. Marcus Webb was none of those things. He was curious, engaged, alive in a way that made her realize how much of her life had been spent going through the motions. Tell me about Earth, she said suddenly. Tell me what it's really like, not the tactical briefings. What's it like to live on a death world? Marcus leaned back, his wine glass cradling in his hands. It's beautiful. Terrifying, sure. Dangerous, absolutely. But beautiful. You ever seen a sunset over an ocean? The Zyx'ara? The way the light catches the water, turns it into liquid gold? You ever felt a storm coming? The way the air changes, gets heavy with promise? You ever stood at the edge of a forest and heard 1,000 different species all living, all thriving, all fighting to survive? You make it sound almost peaceful. It is, in its own way. See, Earth doesn't hate us. It's not trying to kill us. It's just indifferent, and we learn to love it anyway. We learn to find joy in the challenge, beauty in the struggle. We learn that being alive means being grateful for every sunrise, because sunset isn't guaranteed. Zyx'ara felt something shift in her understanding. That's why you fight the way you do. Not because you're fearless, but because you've made peace with fear. Something like that. Marcus smiled. We're not fearless, Zyx'ara. We're just really, really stubborn. The evening stretched longer than planned. They talked about music. Zyx'ara was fascinated by the concept of humans using organized sound for emotional expression. They talked about art, philosophy, the nature of consciousness. Marcus showed her pictures of Earth, and yes, they were terrifying, but they were also breathtaking. Vast deserts under alien stars. Polar regions of incredible beauty. Jungles so thick with life, they seemed to pulse with it. Would you ever go back, she asked, to Earth? Eventually. It's home. But right now out here, this is where I'm supposed to be. He looked at her directly, those predator eyes soft now. Building bridges. Making friends. Showing the galaxy that humans aren't just survivors. We're partners. That was quite the diplomatic answer, Captain Webb. Marcus, he corrected again, and his smile was almost shy. And I meant it. Every word. When Zyx'ara returned to her own ship that night, she found herself thinking about sunsets over oceans she'd never seen, and wondering what it would be like to visit a world where simply surviving was considered an achievement. And she found herself thinking about dark eyes and easy smiles, and a strange warmth that had settled in her primary heart. The alarm came at 0400 ship time. Zyx'ara was on the bridge in seconds, her rest cycle interrupted by the kind of adrenaline spike that only came with mortal danger. The tactical display showed a situation that made the Vraxian ambush look like a minor inconvenience. Report, she commanded, her voice steady despite the rising panic. Long-range sensors detected a quantum signature consistent with a Vraxian battle fleet, her tactical officer said, his crystalline form vibrating so rapidly it created a high-pitched whine. Commander, it's not pirates this time. It's our military. 18 capital ships, 47 support vessels, and at least 3 carriers with fighter complements. They came for revenge, Zyx'ara whispered. They can't let the humiliation stand. One human ship defeating their raiders? Their pride demands blood. Commander, Captain Webb is hailing us. Marcus appeared on the view screen, and for the first time, Zyx'ara saw something in his expression that chilled her. Not fear, determination. The look of a predator that had just been challenged. "I see them," he said without preamble. "Zyx'ara, I need you to listen carefully. Take your ship to maximum speed and head for the Kretal border. Don't stop, don't look back, don't deviate from course. Marcus, there are 65 ships out there. You can't. I can buy you time. That's what matters. Get your crew home safe." "Absolutely not. We'll stand with you. 2 ships are better than." "Zyx'ara." His voice was gentle but firm. "Your ship has no weapons, failing shields, and 300 souls aboard who didn't sign up for combat. My ship was built for this. My crew was trained for this. Let's do our job. Your job is to die heroically while we run." She felt her mandibles click in anger. "Is that what you call building bridges, Marcus? Sacrificing yourself?" Something flickered across his face. "Zyx'ara, please. If there was another way." "There is. We quantum jump together. Right now. We could be gone before they'll track us. Jump drives leave signatures. They'll follow us straight to your home world. And then this becomes an invasion instead of a skirmish." He leaned forward. "I'm not going to lie to you. Our odds aren't great. But we've got some tricks these Vraxians haven't seen yet. And who knows? Maybe we'll surprise everyone. Marcus, take care of yourself, Commander. It was an honor sharing dinner with you." The channel closed. On the tactical display, the Ranger was already accelerating away from them, moving to intercept the Vraxian fleet. One small frigate against an armada. It was insane. It was suicide. It was the most human thing Zyx'ara had ever witnessed. "Helm, all stop," she commanded. "Commander," her pilot asked in confusion. "I said all stop. Communications. Open a channel to all Kretal diplomatic vessels in this sector. Tell them we have an emergency. Tell them to come armed." She turned to her tactical officer. "Can we get shields back online?" "Shields? Commander, we have no weapons. Even with shields, we'd be useless in a fight. We don't need weapons. We just need to not die immediately." She pulled up the tactical display, her 3 optical sensors analyzing the battlefield. "The Vraxians will focus on the Ranger first. It's the threat. If we position ourselves here, we can use our shields to block fire from their support vessels. It won't win the battle, but it might keep Marcus alive long enough for help to arrive." "That's assuming help arrives," the tactical officer said quietly. "Then we'll buy more time." Zyx'ara's mandibles set in determination. "Helm, bring us about. Position us between the Ranger and those support vessels. Engineering, get me whatever shield strength you can manage." "Commander, Captain Webb ordered us to run." "Captain Webb isn't my commanding officer," Zyx'ara said firmly. "And I'm not leaving him to die alone. Now move." The valorous Ascent turned, its damaged systems protesting every command, and positioned itself in what was tactically the worst possible location, directly in the path of an invading fleet. On the view screen, Zyx'ara saw the Ranger adjust its trajectory, and she knew Marcus had seen what she'd done. Her communication console chimed. Marcus's face appeared, and he looked simultaneously furious and touched. "Zyx'ara, what the hell are you doing?" "Building bridges," she said simply. "You taught me that's worth fighting for." For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then that smile appeared, the one that showed teeth, and Zyx'ara realized she'd grown to love that expression. "You're insane. You know that. I believe the term is stubborn. I learned it from a Deathworlder." "All right then." Marcus's expression shifted to something fierce, something almost joyful. "If we're doing this, we're doing it together. Stay on my wing, Commander. And whatever happens, thank you for not running, for taking the harder path. Thank you for showing me it was possible." The Vraxian fleet arrived like a storm made of metal and hatred. Their formation was textbook, capital ships at the center, support vessels screening the flanks, fighters launching in coordinated waves. They'd come prepared to obliterate a single human frigate and anyone foolish enough to stand with it. What they got instead was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. The Ranger opened fire first, its weapons cutting through the void with precision that bordered on artistry. But this time, Marcus wasn't fighting to destroy. He was fighting to control the battlefield. His shots targeted sensors, communications arrays, command bridges. He was blinding them, deafening them, turning their superior numbers into a liability. The valorous ascent did its part, positioning itself to block fire meant for the Ranger, its shields flaring with each impact. They were taking a beating, but they were buying time, buying space, buying Marcus the freedom to maneuver. Their fighters are breaking formation, Zyx'ara's tactical officer reported. They're trying to swarm the Ranger. Then let's give them something else to think about, the Zyx'ara said. Target their fighter control ship with our communications laser. I want to blind their coordination. Commander, that's not a weapon. It's light, and light can damage sensors. Do it. The Kretal vessel fired its communications laser, a tool meant for long-distance signaling, directly into the sensor array of the Vraxian fighter coordinator. It wasn't a weapon, but focused light at that intensity. It didn't need to be. The coordinator went dark, and suddenly 40 fighters had no instructions, no oversight, no unified command. Marcus exploited the chaos instantly. The Ranger dove into the fighter swarm like a hawk into a flock of sparrows, its point defense systems creating a sphere of death around it. Fighters exploded, collided, scattered. And through it all, that small human ship kept moving, kept firing, kept refusing to die. But they couldn't hold forever. The capital ships were adapting, moving into position, preparing to fire their main batteries. When those fired, shields wouldn't matter. The Ranger would be vaporized, and the valorous ascent shortly after. Quantum signatures, the sensor operator shouted. Multiple contacts dropping out of slip space. Zyx'ara's heart sank. Reinforcements for the Vraxians. This was the end. But the ships that appeared weren't Vraxian. They were Kretal battle carriers, their hulls gleaming in the starlight, their weapons hot and ready. And they weren't alone. Human vessels appeared alongside them. Destroyers, cruisers, even a battle cruiser whose weapons could crack planets. Wait until you see the sunset, Marcus said from the communication channel. The Ranger was on her starboard side, both ships descending toward the planet in formation. I've got a spot picked out. Private beach, calm water, perfect view of the Pacific horizon. My parents' place. They're excited to meet you. Excited or terrified? Both. But mostly excited. I told them you saved my life. That makes you family by human standards. Family. The word shouldn't have meant anything to her. Kretal bonding structures were different, based on clutch groups and genetic proximity. But the way Marcus said it, with such simple certainty, made her translation matrix assign it a weight and warmth that transcended mere definition. The landing was carefully coordinated. Zyx'ara's environmental suit was state-of-the-art, designed to protect her from Earth's hostile atmosphere while allowing limited mobility. Marcus met her at the landing pad, wearing casual clothing she'd learned was called jeans and a t-shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Welcome to Earth," he said, that smile bright in the afternoon sun. "Ready for the grand tour?" The next hours were a sensory overload. Marcus's family home was near the ocean. The Pacific, he called it, an expanse of water so vast Zyx'ara's optical sensors couldn't find the far shore. The house itself was modest by human standards, but filled with warmth and lived in comfort. His parents were older humans, their hair graying, their faces lined with what Marcus called laugh lines. "So you're the commander," his mother said, looking up at Zyx'ara's crystalline form with frank curiosity. "Marcus has told us so much about you. Thank you for keeping our boys safe out there." "He kept me safe as well, Mrs. Webb. Your son is remarkably brave." "Remarkably stubborn, you mean?" his father said with a laugh. "Takes after his mother." They shared a meal, carefully prepared food that was safe for Zyx'ara's consumption, alongside traditional human dishes that Marcus insisted she at least smell. The scents were strange, but not unpleasant, and the company was warm, welcoming, everything she'd hoped for and hadn't dared expect. As the sun began to set, Marcus took her down to the beach. The sand was difficult to walk on with her environmental suit, but she managed. The ocean was a living thing, breathing in waves, exhaling in foam. The sound of it was constant, soothing, eternal. "This is where I grew up," Marcus said, stopping at the water's edge. "This beach, this ocean. When I was a kid, I used to sit right here and wonder what was out there, on other worlds, around other stars. If anyone else was looking up at the night sky and wondering the same thing. And now you know." "Yeah, now I know." He turned to her. "Zyx'ara, there's something I need to say. Something I've been trying to find the words for." "Marcus, let me finish. Please." He took a deep breath. "I know this is complicated. I know our species are different, that our biologies are incompatible, that 1,000 regulations and social norms say this is impossible. But I don't care. I love you. I love your brilliance, your courage, your determination. I love the way you laugh when something surprises you, the way your optical sensors shift when you're thinking. I love that you stayed and fought when I told you to run. I love that you're here, on my world, meeting my family, being part of my life." Zyx'ara felt her translation matrix overload, emotions cascading faster than it could process. "I love you too, in ways I don't have words for, in ways my species doesn't acknowledge. You've changed everything I thought I knew about myself, about what's possible. You've shown me that survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about finding reasons to live." The sun touched the horizon, and the sky exploded into colors. Gold and orange and red and purple, light refracting through Earth's atmosphere in a display that no other world could quite replicate. Marcus was right. It was beautiful, terrifying in its immensity, and a reminder of how small they were, how fragile life was against the backdrop of cosmic indifference. But beautiful. "I don't know how this works," Marcus said quietly. "I don't know if we can make this last, if the universe will give us time, if our species will accept us. But I want to try. I want to fight for this, for us, with the same stubbornness that got humanity to the stars in the first place." "Then we'll fight together," Zyx'ara said. "Humans and Kreetal, Deathworlders and crystal beings, building something new, something neither of our species has seen before." They stood on that beach as the sun set, unable to touch, but connected in ways that transcended physical contact. Around them, Earth breathed and lived, a death world that had forged a species too stubborn to quit, too curious to stop reaching, too brave to let fear define them. And in that moment, Zyx'ara understood what it meant to be human. Not fearless, but persistent. Not invincible, but unwilling to surrender. Not despite their world's hostility, but because of it. The stars came out one by one, Earth's rotation bringing the galaxy into view. Somewhere up there, both their species were watching, wondering, hoping. And down here, on a beach beside an ocean on a death world, two souls from different corners of the cosmos had found each other and decided that was worth everything. Marcus's hand reached out, stopping just short of her crystalline surface. Zyx'ara extended her manipulator appendage, maintaining that precious gap that kept them both safe. Between them, in that space measured in millimeters, their future waited. Uncertain, complicated, impossible, and absolutely worth fighting for. 3 years later, the Ranger and the Valorous Ascent traveled together as part of the first joint Kreetal-human exploration fleet. Commodore Marcus Webb, he'd finally accepted the promotion, commanded the human contingent. Admiral Zyx'ara led the Kreetal forces. Together, they ventured into uncharted space, seeking new worlds, new species, new opportunities to build bridges. Their relationship became a symbol for both species. Proof that differences didn't have to divide, That understanding could transcend biology, that love, whatever form it took, was worth pursuing against all odds. Young humans and Kreetal studied them, wrote about them, dreamed of their own cross-species partnerships. And when the first human Kreetal research station opened on a neutral world, designed to study ways to make their species more compatible, it was called Zyx'ara Station, a monument to stubborn hope. Late at night, when their respective crews were asleep and the stars wheeled overhead, Marcus and Zyx'ara would meet in the observation lounge that connected their ships. They would stand there, hands almost touching, talking about the day's discoveries, the challenges ahead, the dreams they shared. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked one night. "Choosing this path? It would have been easier to follow regulations, to keep things professional." "Every day," Zyx'ara answered honestly. Continue. 7:11 p.m. "And every day, I choose you again." That's what love is, isn't it? Choosing the same person, the same dream, over and over, despite everything that says you shouldn't. Spoken like a true Deathworlder. I learned from the best. Outside their window, a new star system approached, unexplored, unknown, full of possibilities. They would investigate it together, face its dangers together, discover its wonders together. Because that's what they did. That's what they'd always do. Two species, two souls, one purpose, building bridges across the stars.